communicate. The secret here is appearance, giving full attention to the person you are. If the mobile shines with more colors than an EDM display, it's hard to stay focused on one thing. Keep it quiet, put it in your pocket, and keep it on the table for bonus brownie points. And don't panic when it goes off. That's based on 100%. You need to be involved in how others think, and you're going to be quick to make friends. Number 2, visionary charisma, belief and confidence. Steve Jobs and Martin Luther King talk about faith and confidence. It is incredibly charismatic to people who have a dream for the world and encourage others to share their vision. Their steadfast determination and fervent belief in their idea attract people. People are afraid of confusion and stick to entities with a schedule. Having a lucid dream and expressing it to others in a manner that encourages them is the secret to creating creative charisma. Of complete confidence, you have to deliver the message. With the transition of responsibility, you can remove self-doubt, close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, and visualize taking off your shoulders the weight of your concerns and shifting it to a benevolent force. When sending a bold message, body language is vital. Choose those shoulders and use larger-than-life movements. Your sight is, so suit your execution. You will encourage integrity and create significant change when you talk with confidence and persuade others to share your faith. This is the charisma that inspires people to believe what you say, passion and faith. Naturally, people are uncomfortable feeling confused, and they want the charge to be led by a guide. Hell, even this kind of charisma succeeded in getting W into the White House, and if it could make a moron like him president, you know it works. This is likely the kind of charisma nearest to the stereotyped charisma of Chad Thundercock. Chad knows his plan is going to work out, so he has confidence throughout his dream. This requires the ability to express increasing commitment and confidence in a cause to communicate transformative charisma. Visionary charisma is thus focused on energy and power, but not generally relational heat. We feel warm, profoundly, and sincerely about their dream. Visionary personality is measured by demeanor, that is, vocabulary and actions of the body. If you seem confident and motivated, they're going to assume you need a good reason to do that. Anyone who is conventionally attractive will have better luck with this than an uggo. But if you can convince people hard, you will conquer the ugliness. Think of the traditional fanatical prophet wearing a hair shirt before a roaring crowd. This includes learning how to build a compelling dream and knowing how to charismatically deliver the message. One of the secrets to expressing your creative charisma is to get yourself into a state of complete confidence and cast doubt. The main problem with this kind of charisma is that if you do it too well, you are going to create a worshipful group with slavishly devoted chodes around you. Or worse, you might begin overestimating your ability and setting yourself up for a fiasco. Number 3, the charisma of kindness, love, and confidence. The charisma of kindness is based primarily on comfort, communicating with the hearts of people and making them feel loved and welcomed. Unlike imaginative and concentrate charisma, the charisma of compassion comes entirely from the language of the body, mainly your head and your eyes in general. Practice this by feeling love as described in the last section for inner resources like appreciation, sympathy, empathy, and self-compassion. Go out of the way also to avoid showing stress and coldness. Again, here you need strength and confidence, otherwise you'll come off like an easy one. Use this to make people feel safe and comfortable as if you need to deliver kindly, lousy news. Avoid it if you have to be dominant or the other person gets too clingy if there is a threat. Do those people who are full of positive energies and who spread love wherever they go. That's charisma of compassion. The secret to communicating with others is to cultivate magnetic power to make you feel welcome. Your disposition toward others must be one of empathy and goodwill. The most important part of cultivating charisma in compassion is body language. You're going to want to stop pessimistic body language shut off. Mirroring the body language of the other person can build confidence and encourage them to open up to you. Change your voice to match your sound and pitch. Your eye contact is essential, your attention is tempered, and your smile is relaxed. By closing your eyes and concentrating on the room surrounding you, you can do this. You will be at peace when you open your eyes. Number 4, authority, charisma, power, and respect. When I ask you what this is, note that power and trust are included in all things. The key is to make it look as if your good and generous self are deigning to be hot and kind and present with them, not that you are seeking their permission. Nevertheless, perhaps the most important of all is this sort of charisma. People follow rulers instinctively, for good or worse. The Dalai Lama represents the charisma of leadership, but Stalin did not. Those with the charisma of leadership are not inherently likable, to quote the charisma theory, who, in turn, cited a sports writer, Michael Jordan, rates his teammates occasionally angry. Yet he uses his charisma to raise the level of play of the entire team. The charisma of authority is based primarily on a sense of control, the assumption that this man can do what he wishes. We measure the strength of somebody's influence by 4 indicators: body language, voice, name, and others' reactions. Yet, you know how to do all these things already. Owing to our instincts to obey the order, authority is the most active form of charisma. The greatest leaders in humanity, both good and bad, convinced us that they had the power to change the world. Developing charisma of leadership will not make you fun, but it will help you lead your group. The vocabulary of your body must be dominant, your motions steady and calm, proving you can walk the walk. Take up plenty of physical space and lower your speech level. You will emanate respect and confidence to those around you if you behave peacefully, coolly, and composed. Even the clothing that you wear can be authoritative. This indicates you mean business when you don a clean outfit. Costly fashion shows us that you can afford to wear it and to be able to do something good. Now, having learned all this, let's raise an uncomfortable question. Why are shitheads so charismatic people? As the latest casting couch brouhaha of #MeToo and ongoing political debate will show, many of our social betters, which by any objective measure are inspiring, are also genuinely miserable human beings. Why? I've been speaking endlessly about how a considerable way to get charisma is to fool yourself into a charismatic state, and what's going on, particularly the method of acting, if it's not fooling you into becoming a character. For that matter, politics is, after all, to quote Ronald Reagan, Hollywood of ugly people. See how it all binds together? While this is just an unfounded idea that I have had, perhaps the reason why politicians and celebrities are so charismatic and reprobate at the same time is because they have no personalities of their own, and so the inspiring sociopath finds it easy to paint different personality traits on themselves. Whether it's real or not, you certainly don't have to be a sociopath to use the charisma methods I've enumerated. Use them for good. Everyone has a form of charisma that makes them feel healthy, while others are more difficult to control. Through training, you can learn all styles in your personal and professional life and use them effectively. Mindfulness meditation. We all know what mindfulness does, but what does meditation actually mean by consciousness? What is definition-based awareness? Meditation of mindfulness refers to a state of mind marked by a very relaxed consciousness. The person experiencing awareness is fully aware of his or her own body functions, emotions, perception, and consciousness content. In fact, he is mindful of all this in a single mind. Mindfulness is, in fact, part of teaching of Buddha. So, discussing some basic concepts of Buddhist philosophy that help to understand the meaning better. Buddha believes that an important part of seeking the road to salvation and peace is the right knowledge. The 7th dimension of the famed Noble Eightfold Path is also mindfulness. A text known as the Satipatthana Sutta, is a text on meditation and philosophies related to it. One of Buddha's main philosophies is that to the point of relaxation, this kind of mindfulness should be paired with deep meditation. Anxiety is an emotion that is natural and often good. If a person feels excessive levels of anxiety regularly, however, it may become a medical disorder. Anxiety disorders from a class of conditions of mental health that lead to excessive nervousness, anxiety, anticipation, and worry. Such diseases change how a person experiences emotions and behaviors, and also causes physical symptoms. Mild anxiety can be ambiguous and disturbing, while severe anxiety can have a severe impact on daily living. In the U.S., anxiety disorders affect 40 million people. It is the country's most popular group of mental illness. Nevertheless, care is given to only 36.9% of people with an anxiety disorder. Anxiety is described by the American Psychological Association as an emotion characterized by feelings of distress, worried thoughts, and physical changes, such as increased blood pressure. Knowing the difference between normal anxiety feelings and an anxiety disorder requiring medical treatment may help a person recognize and manage the condition. Emotional intelligence for project managers. If the only aim was to define the scope, create a plan for the project, and track costs, of course, project management covers all these aspects, but now more than ever. In a highly complex setting, it includes relationships forming, team building control, collaboration, and often negotiation. Until recently, corporate leaders had common thinking about a person's IQ score as the most powerful measure of a person's quality in his work environment, and that emotion at the door can be tested as an obstacle to the employee's success. But it shifts as a new generation of administrators enters management ranks. Entering emotional intelligence. So why does a project manager need to learn and track plans and budgets? Project managers must be able to work in complex matrix environments. Project managers should track, coordination, and understand project requirements in other departments and teams. Project managers must be able to do so. The ability to build relationships and know how best to get from others is a crucial skill that a project manager requires to be effective in a matrix environment. Build successful teams. Persons are key to the success of any organization, and project management is rarely directly handled by the project managers. You must be able to motivate workers, build teams from various sources, and resolve conflicts, and all the capacity to understand people and their specific needs. Planning plans of change causes change by its very nature. Crafting a technical solution is only one aspect of a project. A leader's ability to understand and manage the effects and impacts of that technical solution on a consumer population is important. Leadership. Project managers must assist project participants, partners, and other organizations with which they work. Apart from the ability to make decisions based on careful analysis of the situation, an important part of leadership is also the capacity to take decisions on the basis of an appreciation of the impacts of people. Outputs. The program complexity and degree of collaboration are unrivaled, since it is impossible that a project leader will be enough to manage a project plan clearly. Knowing one's emotions, others' emotions, and how to manage them most effectively might impact a project manager's ability to achieve results significantly. Emotional intelligence and cognitive behavioral therapy. In today's world, there are so many different situations that pull at the emotions of an individual. It is important that we learn to respond to our emotions in a positive way. In this book, we have taken a look at emotional intelligence, being able to identify your emotions, the emotions in others, and respond to them appropriately. We have explored the levels of emotional intelligence, the need to have emotional intelligence, and how a person can increase his emotional intelligence. Because we live in a world full of social ills, there are many who have emotional breaks and dysfunctions that disturb the quality of their daily lives. In the rise of these emotional dysfunctions, various psychologists have created therapies to identify problems and techniques to bring about a solution to these issues. This is where cognitive behavioral therapy comes in. It's all in your head. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a form of psychotherapy. It was invented by a psychiatrist named Aaron Beck. He found that the link between feelings and thoughts was important and came up with the term automatic thoughts. Automatic thoughts are usually associated with intense emotional states like depression, anxiety, anger, and euphoria. There are several characteristics of automatic thoughts. They are internal dialogue that carries specific messages. They appear as short messages by way of keywords. They are involuntary thoughts. They are hard to control and hard to avoid. The therapy Beck invented helps patients to understand the thoughts and feelings that may be influencing their behaviors. It treats problems by modifying dysfunctional feelings, thought patterns, and behaviors. The concept of cognitive behavioral therapy is based on the fact that thoughts, feelings, and actions are interconnected and that negative thoughts can trap you into a cycle of non-productive and sometimes destructive behaviors. Cognitive therapy seeks to alleviate psychological tension by correcting misconceptions. By correcting erroneous beliefs, we can end the overreactions. Aaron Beck. Cognitive behavioral therapy is popular for a couple of reasons. Many therapy programs last for quite some time. Some programs last for years. But cognitive behavioral therapy is short-term. It works on a specific emotional dysfunction, identifying it, understanding its source, and working on solutions to deal with that particular emotion and the behaviors that come along with it. Another reason cognitive behavioral therapy is popular is because the therapist is very active in the treatment of the patient. It is a one-on-one sort of treatment where the treatment plan is discussed and planned directly with the patient. There are no other therapists or co-patients involved. There are many people who do not want others involved in what they see as their personal lives, so working directly with a therapist is appealing. What is the goal of cognitive behavioral therapy? The goal of cognitive behavioral therapy is to assist the client in identifying distorted or irrational thinking patterns. Once the client has identified these patterns, it helps them to control the emotions and behaviors that stem from these thoughts. Often a client has dealt with dysfunctional thoughts and assumptions for so long that they actually don't know where they come from. Many negative thoughts are deep-rooted in childhood and have become a part of a person's automatic thoughts. For example, a small girl is told not to overeat because she is becoming fat, and when she gets older, people will not like her if she's fat. This girl grows up with anxiety every single time she begins to eat. She loves the way the food tastes, but wants people to love her, so she begins a dangerous pattern of overeating and throwing up. She becomes unhealthy simply because she believes no one will love her if she carries extra pounds. The goals in her sessions would be to change her thought pattern with food, change her thoughts about her self-image, promoting self-love and self-care. Overall, the goal of therapy is to change patterns of thinking or behavior that are behind people's difficulties and so change the way they feel. What happens in a therapy session? A therapy session is usually scheduled once per week or every 2 weeks. These sessions last between 3 to 60 minutes and are very specific in nature. Cognitive behavioral therapy sessions are different than other more traditional therapy sessions. Remember, cognitive behavioral therapy is very specific and goal-oriented, so there is no sitting in front of a therapist, rambling on and on about things that come to your mind. During the first sessions, you and the therapist will separate your problems into different categories: thoughts, physical feelings, and actions. The next stage would be to work out whether these areas are unrealistic or unhelpful. From there, you will determine how these areas affect you. After that, the therapist will be better able to create a treatment plan that is doable for you. The first thing that your provider would want to change is harmful and unhelpful behaviors and thoughts. Once you have worked out these kinks, your therapist will ask you to practice different scenarios at home and eventually graduating to applying the newly learned techniques to your real life. Types of cognitive behavioral therapy. The field of cognitive behavioral therapy is not a one-size-fits-all kind of therapy. There are different types of therapies for different situations. We will list some of these popular ones. Rational emotive behavioral therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, multimodal therapy, dialectical behavioral therapy. Rational emotive behavioral therapy, also known as REBT, was developed by a psychologist by the name of Albert Ellis. People are not disturbed by things, but rather by their view of things. Albert Ellis. The therapy focuses on self-defeating thoughts in the present. For most part, the way people feel is largely influenced by how they think. When people hold irrational beliefs about themselves or the world, problems can result. The goal of REBT is to help people alter illogical beliefs and negative thinking patterns in order to overcome psychological problems and mental distress. Once these thoughts are identified, the therapist can assist you with evaluating these irrational thoughts and show you how to overcome them. Ellis suggested that people erroneously blame external events for their unhappiness. He stated that it is not the events themselves that cause problems. It is our interpretation of those events that cause issues. To explain how this process works, Ellis developed what is called the ABC model. A. Activating event. Something happens in the environment around you. B. Belief. You hold a certain belief about the event. C. Consequence. You have an emotional response to your belief. REBT uses a variety of tools and treatments such as self-help books, audio-visual guides, positive visualization, and reframing of the mind. Cognitive behavioral therapy focuses on what is in the mind and not so much as the behavior that stems from it. This therapy divides thoughts into three categories: automatic thought, immediate belief, and core belief. Multimodal therapy was devised by psychologist Arnold Lazarus. The idea behind this therapy is that an individual had different modalities and the therapist must treat the client based on them. Treatment follows 7 dimensions of modalities. It is known by the acronym BASIC ID: behavior, affect, sensation, imagery, cognition, interpersonal relationships, drugs, biology. Dialectical behavioral therapy is a type of treatment which teaches clients how to live in the moment. It was originally for clients with borderline personality disorder. Dialectics function based on 3 main assumptions: all things are interconnected, change is constant and inevitable, and opposites can be integrated to form a closer approximation of the truth. So, with this therapy, the patients and therapists work to resolve the contradiction between self-acceptance and change. Proven cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. We now know cognitive behavioral therapy is a theory. We know in general what happens in sessions between a therapist and client, but what are some of the proven techniques clients can take home and use in real-world situations? We will discuss 6 major techniques: cognitive restructuring technique, graded exposure assignments, activity scheduling, successive approximation, mindfulness practice, and skills training. The cognitive restructuring technique can be employed to understand negative feelings and moods. It allows you to challenge the automatic thoughts in your mind. This technique works well with disorders such as depression, social phobias, and relationship issues. Cognitive restructuring is based on 7 concepts originally brought forth in a book entitled Mind Over Mood by Christian Padesky and Dennis Greenberger. These concepts are as follows: calm yourself. Use some of the relaxation technique to calm you down from the initial emotion that is upsetting you. Meditation, deep breathing. Identify the situation. Define the situation that triggered the negative mood or emotion. Analyze your mood. Write down the mood you felt in the middle of that situation. The mood itself, not the thoughts that came along with it. Identify automatic thoughts. Write down the automatic thoughts that appeared when you experienced the mood. Find objective supportive evidence. Identify any evidence to support these automatic thoughts. Find objective contradictory evidence. Identify and write down any evidence that contradicts your automatic thoughts in the situation. Identify fair and balanced thoughts. Look at both sides of the situation. Look at your supportive evidence versus your contradictory evidence. Find the balanced view and write these thoughts down. Monitor your present mood. Having a clearer view, think and reflect on what you can automatically do about the situation. Graded exposure assignments are one of the most effective techniques in cognitive behavioral therapy, donning a 90% success rate. Many people avoid fearful situations that trigger negative emotions. Yet, gradual assigned exposure to these very situations allows a person to overcome their anxiety and fears. As the client masters these emotions, the therapist exposes the client to more difficult situations. Activity scheduling is a simple technique that works well with patients suffering from depression. In general, those who suffer from depression withdraw from others and everyday activities. With activity scheduling, the client uses a chart to record an activity, listing what they did and the intensity of the emotions they felt when doing the activity. Their sense of achievement on a scale of 0 to 10, senses of closeness to others, and the sense of enjoyment the activity brought them. Through this careful evaluation of activities, clients can slowly be reintroduced into daily activities and learn to cope and manage thoughts, moods, and feelings that bring about depression. Successive approximation is a technique used to assist people in accomplishing tasks that they are overwhelmed by. With this technique, you systematically take a large task and break it down into smaller chunks to make the task easier. You can also undertake a similar task with a lower difficulty level. This enables the patient to gradually tackle more complicated or complex tasks without feeling overwhelmed. Mindfulness is a concept that originated with Buddhism. In its simplest form, it means to be in the present moment. When a person is in the present moment, they have no focus on the past or thoughts about the future. When you master mindfulness, you don't have an aversion to negative situations or a desire for favorable ones. Mindfulness allows you to focus on the ever-changing nature of life. Nothing stays the same, including ourselves. When you realize on an internal level that you are a being that is ever-changing and evolving, you can release yourself from the rigidity and routine you have bound yourself with. You can accept flexibility into your life. The result is less stress and negative emotions. Skills training is very important in cognitive behavioral therapy. Many of the problems that arise in relationships, personally and in the workplace, are because one or more parties have a deficiency when it comes to their social skills. The most common trainings focus on CBT are assertiveness training, communication training, and social skills training. Defects in social skills can be a variety of areas. The patient may have issues with eye contact, initiating conversation, not knowing appropriate social behavior, or knowing the correct social protocols, but experiencing anxiety when it comes to their application. Social skills training begins with an in-depth evaluation of the client's interpersonal defects. Once the defects have been identified, the therapist can begin a treatment plan to increase skill use. Usually, the therapist likes to use role play with the client. It gives him an opportunity to practice the skills needed in a safe environment and receive immediate feedback. Assertiveness training is designed to assist people with standing up for their rights and getting what they deserve from others. People who have problems in assertiveness fall into two categories: being overly passive and never being able to get what you want and deserve, being overly aggressive and getting exactly what you want but destroying relationships in the process. This therapy is one-on-one with the therapist and highly specific. First, the client makes a list of situations which assertiveness was lacking. From this list, a hierarchy of assertiveness is created. Together with the therapist, the client begins to work on each situation, starting with the least difficult, identifying obstacles for success. The therapist assists the client with the emotional discomfort that comes up when facing these various situations. Communication skills training, once mastered, can solve many relationship issues, especially on the job. Communication problems usually involve an issue in listening, speaking, or both. This training can assist the speaker with making himself welcome and understood to others. One of the ways of doing this is by the speaker using positive statements instead of negative ones. Learning effective listening skills is also paramount. Proper listening skills can help others truly understand the speaker and the speaker feel understood. Some of the listening skills a therapist focuses on are active listening, rephrasing, empathizing, validating, and inquiring. Anytime a person has issues on an emotional level, whether it is depression, social hang-ups, or anxieties, the first advice given is you have to have more confidence. This is good advice. However, you rarely hear a person go past that statement. No one tells you how to become more self-confident or how to increase the positive thoughts about your image. In all fairness, most people probably don't know. The majority of people who are self-confident just are. We are a sum total of our experiences, and those that we have in our formative years play a large role in how we feel about ourselves. But for someone who is suffering from a lack of confidence, how do they get on the road to self-confidence? What does it mean to be self-confident? What does self-confidence look like? Is self-confidence the same as self-esteem? What about self-efficiency? What is self-confidence? A short definition of self-confidence is feeling good about yourself and the world around you. Nice, right? Well, this statement is true, but self-confidence goes deeper than this paper-cut definition you may find in some dictionaries. Self-confidence is actually not a single idea, but rather it is a process. This process includes how someone feels about himself and others and how he handles situations, even when they are difficult and challenging. Anali Rufus really hits the nail on the head when he stated self-confidence involves self-respect and having the courage to tell the truth about who you are, what you like, and what you believe. Here are a few examples of what self-confidence looks like. Being courageous and standing up for yourself assertively. Feeling worthy despite imperfections. Knowing you are worthy of others' friendship and respect. There are times people have a lack of self-confidence because of their erroneous beliefs concerning what self-confidence is. They set the bar too high when they think that self-confidence is being perfect or having a life free from problems, tests, and pains. Being self-confident has absolutely nothing to do with perfectionism, and striving for perfection is a surefire way to set yourself up for a letdown. Self-confidence can be exemplified even when mistakes and failures take place. Some may confuse self-confidence with self-esteem and self-efficiency. Although these terms are closely related, they are different. Self-confidence is related to how a person feels about himself and others. But self-esteem is internal, and it is the degree to which a person values himself. It is not in comparison to anything but how that individual sees himself. And then there is self-efficiency, which is someone's belief in his ability to accomplish something. Self-confidence would be a merging of self-esteem and self-efficiency. A lack of self-confidence can lead to negative emotions that impact a person's quality of life. Some of these feelings are anxiety, depression, self-doubt, apathy, unworthiness. These types of feelings can get a person caught in a vicious cycle of negative emotions and reactive behaviors. Popular theories of self-confidence. There are many theories of self-confidence in the world of psychology today. One of the oldest among them is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of fundamental needs. His theory, put forth in 1943, is somewhat outdated but still remains a reference point for the relevance of self-confidence as a fundamental need of every person. Maslow noted that basic needs had to be met before more complex ones could. On his famous pyramid demonstrating the hierarchy of needs, self-confidence or self-esteem was listed as the second highest level of need. So, the essential needs of nutrition, shelter, safety, and clothing, etc., must be met before a person can work on his self-confidence level. In later years, Maslow modified his hierarchy to include those who had dangerous living situations, but still had a high level of self-confidence. His theory is no longer used today as a strict theory, but rather a guideline showing how the fulfillment of basic needs can foster in the fulfillment of more complex ones. Another theory on self-confidence is the terror management theory, also known as TMT. This theory states that self-esteem forms as a way to protect and buffer against anxiety, and people strive for self-confidence and react negatively to anyone or anything that could undermine their worldview beliefs. Those who support this view say that humans respond with terror to the awareness of their own mortality. The building of self-confidence is the way people inwardly protect themselves against this reality. A social psychologist by the name of Mark Leary introduced another theory called sociometer theory. This theory suggests that self-esteem is an internal measure of the degree to which one is included or excluded by others. This means that a person's self-confidence or self-esteem level is based on the internal individual perception of social acceptance and rejection. There has been evidence in this field that this may be the case. Social inclusion increases self-esteem, while social exclusion decreases it. The importance of a positive mindset for being self-confident. Self-confidence and negativity do not reside in the same zone. These two cannot coexist. In order to have a nice level of self-confidence, you must have a positive mindset. Part of the Optimist Creed states, "Promise yourself to talk health, happiness, and prosperity to every person you meet." This statement includes you. You must talk positively to yourself if you want to be self-confident. Internal negativity. All negativity must be cast away. Identify any negative self-talk and replace it with positive affirmations. Here are some examples of negative self-talk that you should never say to yourself. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. I'm too old. I'm not smart enough. I need to wait until I get everything together. Never accept the negative connotation that you are not good enough. Don't allow past situations and circumstances to keep you stuck in a non-productive place in your life. You can always change the narrative. Know that you are great and you are more than good enough. You can't hit the mark 100% of the time, but that doesn't mean you are a failure or that you have to accept failure. Always acknowledge what went wrong, reflect, and decide what you could do better the next time around. All people make mistakes along the way. It takes mistakes to know the rights and failures to know success. Too old? What? There is no such thing. It is never too late to live the life you want to live. There is nothing to stop you from living your purpose except you. Stop telling yourself this lie. Don't dwell on what you have not accomplished yet. Remember, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. Do it with love and do it with passion. Author Harry Bernstein wrote 20 books that were never published. His first published novel was in 2007, when he was at the age of 97. He went on to publish another book when he was 98 and yet another when he was 99 years old. He had accepted defeat or the attitude that he was too old to fulfill his dreams. The world would have never been able to benefit from his works. Why are you telling yourself that you are not good enough? There is so much information at your fingertips. This cannot be the negative conversation you are having with yourself. Anything you want to know, Google it. You don't know how to do something? Search it. I bet there is a YouTube video to show you how it's done. Do you read? If not, try it. Read. Learn something new every day. There are a lot of sites dedicated to knowledge in a myriad of subjects. Educate yourself. Maybe you are telling yourself that you have to have everything together before you accomplish certain things. Newsflash. You will never find the time when everything is perfect. This is self-talk that keeps you trapped in procrastination and prevents you from accomplishing what you want. Take progressive steps every day and soon you will find that you have met your goals. External negativity. The people in your atmosphere must be positive as well. Don't allow negative people and situations to enter your life. They will cause you to doubt everything that is around you and your ability to accomplish anything. If you stay clear of negativity, you will notice that your mindset is more positive. The optimistic creed also states to be too large for worry, too noble for anger, too strong for fear, and too happy to permit the presence of trouble. Never let someone else's opinion of you become your reality. Clear your environment of those who don't bring you any benefit. A positive mindset is the key to building self-confidence. 9 ways to increase self-confidence. Do you lack self-confidence? Well, the good thing about self-confidence is that it can be increased. It will take some time and work on your part, because the way you feel about yourself is deeply rooted, and many of those feelings may have developed early in your childhood. So be prepared for the work, know that it can be done, and watch your self-confidence grow. Sit or stand in a position of confidence. Power poses change the way that you feel about yourself. Amy Cuddy, a Harvard psychologist, stated that studies show that confident body postures hormonally change the way you feel about yourself. An example of this would be the Wonder Woman pose. With this pose, your body is open, legs spread apart, hands on hips, and chin out. Build your capacity for energy. A small amount of stress can give you the energy push you need to get the job done. Don't look this small amount of pressure make you nervous. Reframe this energy as excitement. Learn to engage with your feelings and expand your presence. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is something you can practice at any time and any place. Become aware of the presence. Begin by observing your body, beginning with your feet, and work your way up to your head. Breathe carefully, slowly, and intently. Allow your eyes to become aware of the things in your vision field. Allow your ears to hear the things in your immediate environment. Once you are aware and in the present, go beyond your simple environment to feel quiet, energy, or noises around you. Use visualization. Close your eyes and imagine you are confidently standing in whatever situation you want to be more confident in. Allow yourself to experience feelings of comfort and ease. Exercise regularly. Exercising releases endorphins, which interact with opiate receptors in your brain, which produces a pleasurable state of mind. You will view yourself in a more positive light. Not only will you feel better mentally, but your physical health will also improve. Give yourself permission to take risks and make mistakes. No one has knowledge of every single area, and even when you have knowledge in a particular field, there is always something you can expand on. Allow yourself to be a novice. Soak up information and your confidence level will increase. Speak well to yourself. Having feedback from others has its place, but what about the conversation you're having with yourself? Always look to others for feedback, and validation is not good. Speak words of encouragement to yourself. The most important relationship you will ever have is the one that you have with yourself. Make it a good one. Clarify your goals. When creating a list of goals you would like to accomplish, start with the larger goals and then create actionable steps to attain each one. Ask for help and offer help to others. No man can live in this world alone. It takes getting help from others at times to success. There is nothing wrong with reaching out for assistance. Your self-confidence level will also increase dramatically if you reach out to help others. It gives you a sense of accomplishment and being a part of the greater good. If you really put in the work and practice the techniques listed above, you will find your self-confidence getting stronger. You will gain more resilience and self-reliance to tackle anything that comes your way. How to get rid of them. How to deal with depression. You can feel helpless when you're depressed. You're not. In addition to therapy and medication at times, there is a lot you can do to fight back on your own. All natural treatments for depression are improving your actions, your physical activity, diet, and even your way of thinking. Starting right now, these tips will help you feel better. Get into a routine. Set goals. Exercise. Eat healthy. Get enough rest. Take responsibility. Challenge negative thoughts. Before using supplements, consult with your doctor. Do something new. Try something new. How to overcome your anxiety. About 40 million people have an anxiety disorder, ranging from a generalized anxiety disorder, described as intense worrying you can't control, to panic attacks, including heart palpitations, trembling, shaking, and/or sweating. Whether you're feeling moderate or severe anxiety, you should take steps to calm down and soothe yourself instantly. Here are some of the best ones. A very intense social phobia. Such phobia makes taking even the slightest moves out of their comfort zone challenging and confusing. Mindfulness meditations are a beneficial addition to taking the first step in an attempt at exposure therapy, as they allow you to consider an event without attempting to change or influence it. This practice helps you to recognize the apprehension without running away if faced with an opportunity to socialize. You may start by paying attention to your breathing during these meditations without attempting to control, alter, or evaluate the experience. Control the body's movements without fighting them. Then start applying your daily interactions with this training. Combine focus with sensitivity to anxiety for an effective way to overcome fear, as it makes you cope in social situations. Number 3, open your mind to a more confident you. People might say they want to be confident, but then feel too scared to face the uncertainties needed to become that positive version of yourself. By lifting heavy weights, you cannot become a professional weightlifter. After spending hundreds of hours or more studying, you cannot become a professional level guitarist. You cannot become a person of trust without having to face fears. Courage comes after you, not before. Do things that scare you. However, the contrast for skills such as guitar and trust is that if you love music, you can find all those hours you spend inspiring and training. But a socially anxious person may seem like torture. To start conversations and learn comfortable body language, giving up on the preparation you need is better when you think it's going to be painful. But every time social interaction is stopped, it is a lost chance to meet and grow up with challenges. It seems more frightening because starting a conversation with a stranger than skydiving people need a good excuse to avoid such uncomfortable situations. They can construct an identity as the socially awkward individual with no social skills. They believe this identity and refuse to accept that it is even an opportunity to gain trust because this perceived identity is more comfortable to blame for lack of social success than to assume responsibility for it. Facing doubts and disappointment would be too painful. It would only bring ignorance to their confirmation bias to the idea of building trust. We must understand that all people are different from each other genetically. We have separate development, dependence, pain, tolerance, and many other variations. Combine these psychological differences with different environmental variables and traumatic experiences, and some people may find the perception of social anxiety much more painful and crippling. But that's no reason not to be open and become a human more comfortable when you close up to any. Number 4, seek out social interactions, searching for reflection. On social interactions and being open to trustful living can help you build a more positive mindset. But for you to indeed start believing it, it must be backed up by evidence. That's why positive statements sound like a good idea but are ultimately ineffective if not paired with results. You could write, "I'm sure," hundreds of times a day, but you're not going to believe that until you do something to prove it's right to yourself. Place yourself in generally discouraging circumstances. Start with the most straightforward conditions to work with. Whenever you are faced with one of those crucial situations where you have to choose to participate and ignore others, urge yourself to want to interact with people even if you are uncomfortable about it. Consider the sensations of nervousness and do something away. It helps to strengthen the confidence that mutual trust can potentially be achieved. This constructive attitude will gain strength with each contact as long as you allow it to occur. Number 5, find something positive about every interaction. The socially insecure may not know all the genuine hugs, encouragement, and positive attention that they might receive. Sometimes we pay more attention to exclusion, hostility, and offensive behavior. Because of this, you are reflecting on the positive aspects of each experience that can often be more complicated. Before you think about any term that you misrepresent or how your touch was as soft as a dead squid when you shook somebody's arm, you first remember something good about the encounter. This is meant to be your first thought as it lets you develop positive brain habits that reinforce strong values. You may have liked how someone laughed, a joke you made, or you may have been proud of your ability to keep eye contact for longer. It's also an excellent time to remember the things you've learned from this experience that can benefit you in the future. You can then objectively determine what you can do better next time after you have accepted what went well. You may need to speak louder, for instance, and express more of your thoughts. Be pleased that you understand what needs to be improved and continue to make progress. Try to consider how your own body language operates when you read through this chapter and start to take note of it and observe how other individuals act. If you have a lot of self-awareness, then you should attempt to see your body in action. If you laugh at a TV show, attempt to see how you move your face and chest. Observing others, particularly if they are not watched and tired of being watched, is also very helpful in studying body language in various scenarios and circumstances. Try to be realistic about what body language can achieve. It may be that when they are susceptible, individuals display their wrists, but they may just have itchy wrists, and not everyone is the same. It's best not to judge others by their body language if you can avoid it. If someone in their face and shoulders is clearly annoyed with you, but they say they're not political, appreciate what they are trying to do and try to fix their annoyance's cause instead of causing a confrontation. Types of body language. For closer examination, these gestures may be further broken down. Another sort is the micro gesture. These gestures are the minute and subtle details that can be very hard to see. The way an eyebrow lays on your head or in the wrinkles around your eyes might show little ripple of disappointment. Another different gesture is the gestures of support. These are gestures that are created very obviously to support what you say. This is based on a simple gesture such as hands held apart to show size, or it could be a particular hand waving to show enthusiasm or intensity. Sometimes individuals wave their hands just because it helps individuals believe or stimulate various neural pathways in a strange manner. This leads us to private gestures, gestures that are or will be particular to that person. Only one person can have it. Personal gestures could be things like how people throw their hair back when nervous. Fake gestures are one of the trickier classifications. Not all gestures imply what they seem to mean. A smile could imply kindly hurry up and leave, as readily as I'm pleased you're here. The last form of gestures is non-body gestures. This involves gestures you are doing as well as gestures you are not doing. Personal space is a significant gesture, for instance, but it needs very little motion. Other kinds of non-body gestures are the way you speak, or even what you might look at. There are many distinct kinds of body language, so starting with looking at how they can be broken down into ways that make them easier to comprehend is worthwhile. We addressed deliberate and unintentional gestures at the start of this book and how much we deliberately regulate when communicating. These terms will be used to differentiate between the type of gestures we know we do from those we may not be conscious of. I could readily tell you that I was pointing my finger at you deliberately, but I could struggle to see my foot bouncing up and down because it was done intentionally. Unintentional gestures are things like crossed arms, head bobbing, biting your lip in profound concentration, or sitting in a chair with this definition. These can, of course, be regulated activities, but when we focus more on some other case or action, we merely want to think of them as being out of control in a natural state. Intentional gestures of the body can be seen as an open palm that tells us to stop, or 3 fingers indicating 3 minutes. Gestures can be easily interpreted into words. your posture, feet, leg, and the way you stand. We're going to begin with your private anchors, the things that keep you standing up and naturally leading you into your posture and what it tells the world. These body parts are crucial for reading body language because people don't often control them. Apart from being occasionally told to stand directly as a kid, individuals are not quite conscious of how to stand or how to guard their emotions by adopting a particular posture that is more prevalent with their hands and face. However, when we're wearing a uniform, suit, dress, or you're at a significant event, we seem to think how we stand or where we place our feet a lot. It can even be an indication of an absence of command or sorrow if you look sunken and locked in. One of depression's classic symptoms is individuals walking slower than usual. When a physical appearance manifests itself in a person's posture, you understand that an individual is usually experiencing a powerful impression. If someone has started hitting the ground like a maniac, you can perceive tension or anger build up as someone trying to scare you or somebody. The happy and relaxed slouch, however, is closely linked to the sad slouch. Detecting the distinction from the person's overall energy is simple. If the shoulders are pushed back and the face is open, then somebody's pleased about something. If you struggle to see their face, they're probably sad. If you're feeling sad, you can go some way to reverse it by deliberately breathing deeply and gently and attempting to dissolve your negativity. By concentrating outside of yourself and adopting a posture that opens your chest to the world and makes you stand stronger. It can convey a lot whether a person is standing or sitting. Standing indicates that an individual is active and willing to start thinking or moving by first sitting down. You rarely start something energetic. This is helpful to remember if you meet someone and try to create a nice feeling if you're standing up, if you're open and playing around with personal space and touch, and if you're sitting down, it enables you to use more strong body language that's not available. Walking is a nice way to use the vibrancy of standing and indicates fast thinking in some people, and also makes the other individual comfortable by avoiding unnecessary contact with the eye. It's also an outstanding way to mirror someone else, build relationships, and share